Superphiz here. This is going to be episode 34 of State of the Stake. One of the things I hate is recording over and over in multiple takes. But I got this new setup and I was supposed to practice with it. Jeremiah Nickel kept giving me hints and I was supposed to be practicing, but I didn't practice. So I just did this once and it didn't record, so I'm trying it again. You don't care about any of that. So this is going to be what I'm going to call Season 2 of State of the Stake. I did a bunch of these videos, 33 of them in 2020, and they seem to be pretty well received by people, and so I thought, why not try to do 100 of them in 2021? This year I have engineering support from Michael Giesen from unvetica.eth. Michael has become a great friend, and he really gets this visual presentation stuff, and so he offered to help out by engineering and producing and publishing these videos, and so I'm really grateful to him for taking that stress off of me so that hopefully I can sit down and do a one-shot single take and be done. Today I want to talk about something really exciting. Yesterday EthStaker met with Danny Ryan from the Ethereum Foundation. Danny Ryan is technically a researcher, but his actual role is kind of a bridge between Ethereum research and Ethereum implementation, or what you call Ethereum 2 implementation. Danny essentially takes the research end and writes an implementation spec, and that spec is then used by software implementers to develop ETH2 clients. And those are the things that we know as Lighthouse, Prysm, Nimbus, and Teku. And so every week they have a meeting and they talk about their status toward implementation, and they work to make sure they're all on the same page. And these implementation teams had a fantastic success in December 1st, 2020, when they released the beacon chain. The beacon chain went live. We had a great celebration with EthStaker, and it was awesome. It's incredible. Like, all of these years of research, essentially since Vitalik saying in 2014, talking about this whole idea of serenity, of proof of stake, of more transactions, that finally took a massive step into reality on December 1st with the liveness of the beacon chain. And 6 weeks later, the beacon chain is humming along perfectly. I dare say that it has exceeded everyone's expectations. There were a lot of test nets that had some shaky ground because of nothing at stake problems, but when mainnet went live, we saw the finality of all of this work coming together in the beacon chain. A lot of people don't really grasp why Ethereum 2 is such a big deal, why the beacon chain is such a big deal, because there are so many of these distributed proof of stake networks or other networks that have used part of this research to implement a network. But I really suggest that you look at the work by Vlad Zamfir into the scalability trilemma, and some of that will help you understand why Casper FFG is such a great finality system, and why the Ethereum 2 network is such an awesome marvel. And maybe that's something I'll go into a little later, but suffice it to say that the beacon chain is the pinnacle of research for proof of stake networks, and it really is an awesome thing. So beyond that, we're looking forward to 2021 with the beacon chain, and the question becomes, what's next? A lot of us have known for a long time that the deployment of ETH2 was in phases. We had phase 0, phase 1, phase 1.5, and phase 2. Those things are kind of gone now in more favor of a parallel approach. So phase 0 was the launch of the beacon chain, and that's been done. The next phases were the merge of the ETH1 chain onto ETH2 and sharding. And so sharding is trucking along, not something I want to focus on right now. What I want to talk about is the merge of ETH1 onto ETH2. And there were a lot of ways that this was discussed. At one point, the prevailing attitude was that ETH1 would become a shard on ETH2, one of the 64 shards. And there's some new some new developments that kind of changed the way that might work. In the past few weeks, the Teku client did some experimentation with kind of bolting on the proof-of-stake consensus mechanism onto Geth. And so essentially what this means is exchanging that proof-of-work mining consensus model for a proof-of-stake consensus model that's held in ETH2. This is kind of a big deal. Essentially what this means is that ETH1 doesn't have to take a shard on ETH2. Instead, it can continue to run on the same chain with a new consensus model, that being the proof-of-stake consensus model, providing finality. So we get all of the benefits, all of the improvements of proof-of-stake, especially like the lower energy use, which is something I really want to talk about this year, without any of the real losses. And so ETH1 can continue to chug along, the beacon chain can continue to do its thing, and when they're ready, shards can be added to expand capacity. Right now we have a lot of layer 2 solutions that are stepping up to provide this capacity improvement. So the future is really bright. I would not be surprised by mid-year to see some public proofs of concepts for exchanging this proof-of-work finality mechanism for the proof-of-stake finality mechanism in ETH1. It's really exciting. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. The research it seems to be really solidifying. It's to the point where, as an end user, I understand a lot of the big picture, where for a long time it seemed to change so frequently that I really couldn't lock it down. But I understand some of the broad strokes now. The broad strokes being that the beacon chain works, that proof of stake can be implemented as a finality engine in ETH1, that shards can come before or after the merge. And so this is all just very exciting stuff, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to the year. I hope if you have any questions, you'll ask them below. And again, thanks to Michael for offering to produce these videos. I hope it looks good. I might not look at it at all, but I appreciate your feedback. Take care.